Thursday. It's a beautiful, sunny, but very cold day in Jackson Hole today. I think it was -12 this morning when I woke up, and this is October 30th. So technically, it's still fall and not winter yet, but winter has begun for us for sure. So today I want to talk about the top 3 reasons why you're waking up in the middle of the night. Now, when you Google this question, you're going to get all kinds of answers. Some of them are the usual, you have to pee, or you're thinking about too much, or whatever it is. You can also get some more crazy answers. So one of them is that you're following your ancestral rhythms because back in the day, before modern times, people had biphasic sleep, which means that they went to bed pretty much at dark, slept for 3 or 4 hours. They were awake in the night for an hour or two, and then they went back to sleep for another 3 or 4 hours. And supposedly, this is how humans slept for a very long time. Obviously, that doesn't work in our society today, and so most people have adapted to our schedule where we sleep that 7 to 9 hours a night all at once and not in segments. I remember when I was having sleepless nights a couple years ago that I would look up and find all these spiritual meanings. And at first I was like, okay, maybe this is making sense. Sure, I'm about to have this awakening point. I'd started my business at this time. I was a new mom, and so all these changes were definitely happening. But after months and months, I was just like, this this isn't a good enough explanation. This shouldn't be happening for months and months. So, what really bothered me about these answers is that they all meant that there was nothing you could do about it. So it's just like you just had to accept the fact that, for me, that I was waking up at 3 or 4 in the morning and not able to go back to sleep until 6 in the morning when it was pretty much time to get up. So that just always really frustrated me. And I was doing so many things right, like, avoiding screens and dimming the lights before bed and trying to manage my stress at the time. Not eating spicy or heavy foods before bed, like all the sleep hygiene things I was already trying and it wasn't helping. So now that I've learned more about sleep and combine that with what I already know about nutrition, I do believe that there are 3 main reasons why you're waking up at night and not able to go back to sleep. And I'm talking real reasons, not spiritual or ancestral or even sleep hygiene reasons. And the interesting thing is that all of these reasons have to do with our hormone cortisol. So cortisol is our stress hormone, as you may already know, and it may, has kind of a bad reputation. Like we think that we want to always lower cortisol. Well, it's actually a necessary hormone that wakes us up in the morning and keeps us alert throughout the day. So it is something that we need. And it's also is what is triggered during our fight or flight response when we experience a stressor. So obviously it's very necessary if you are being chased by a bear in the Tetons. You want that cortisol to be released. But if you're constantly stressed by all these, chronic stressors that we have in our life of being too busy, of worrying about money, worrying about family, worrying about work, all the things, if you're constantly in that fight or flight mode, then your cortisol is going to be elevated all the time, and that is going to cause some problems. And what happens with sleep is that cortisol suppresses melatonin, which is our sleepy hormone. And so naturally cortisol levels should lower throughout the day as melatonin starts to rise in the evening, getting close to bedtime. So we shouldn't have, our cortisol levels should be very low in the middle of the night and when we first wake up in the morning, and then start rising throughout the day. So that's why we don't want cortisol being released at night. So the number 1 reason that we wake up at night is this too much stress. And so, it kind of jumped ahead a minute ago, but getting back to that of if we're constantly stressed all day long and not managing our cortisol levels, then they're just going to stay really high all day and even all night long. So that's why it's really important to do stress relieving techniques like yoga, meditation, even going for a walk during the day, just taking a break, which I know if you're really busy, it's really hard to do. A lot of times, we wake up in the morning, hit the ground running, getting the kids off to school, getting off to work, doing what you have to do at work, running around, same at night, coming home, cooking dinner, getting the kids to bed, all the things that we keep busy with that seem like a very necessary part of our lives. But, the more that you can take some breaks throughout the day, and I call them recovery breaks. So even if every hour or two you step away from your computer, you get up from your desk, you do some deep breathing, you do some meditating, even if you scroll on social media, like something that's a break from the work you're doing, that is relaxing. So I would definitely recommend managing your stress during the day to sleep better at night. So if you're if you wake up in the middle of the night and your thoughts are just racing, that's probably what's happening, is that you aren't managing your stress during the day, and so it is affecting your sleep at night. It's when your brain finally shuts down, and if you haven't given it space to process everything that you've done during the day, then it's going to take that space at night. And all the things that you didn't consciously focus on worrying about during the day are then going to show up in the night. So managing stress is a huge part of it. Now, another reason that cortisol gets released in the night is from our blood sugar levels dropping too low. So if you're on a blood sugar roller coaster all day, and this especially happens from eating too much sugar and processed carbohydrates, then your blood sugar levels can drop in the night as well. So when they drop too low in the night, your body's going to release cortisol to bring those blood sugar levels back up, and it's going to wake you up, of course. You're not necessarily going to feel hungry, but you will be awake and stimulated from that cortisol being released. So the best way to get off that blood sugar roller coaster is to avoid the sugar and processed carbohydrates, pastries, pastas, breads, all those things, especially by themselves. So you always want to pair your meals with healthy fats and protein to help slow down that blood sugar spike and to keep you full longer as well. And get off that blood sugar roller coaster. Especially breakfast is a really important meal to make sure that it's balanced. Yes, you do want some complex carbohydrates, but you also need healthy protein and fat, or healthy fat and protein. So you don't want to start off breakfast with a pastry or a muffin and coffee. That is just going to set you up for that roller coaster all day long of your blood sugar spiking, and then it crashes, and then you're hungry, craving more carbohydrates and sugar, and caffeine, because your body wants this quick energy. So you have that, raises again, drops again. And so that's what I mean by the roller coaster. And it's crazy because being sleep deprived actually makes you more likely to crave those foods, those unhealthy foods that I'm suggesting that you recommend. It also messes with the hormones that control our hunger, which I'll talk about more in depth later, but it can make us more likely to overeat 300 calories a day. So that's pretty crazy there. So just being aware of that can help, and really focusing on a balanced whole foods diet. Now, a less known reason why you may be waking up in the night, it may be surprising, is it has to do with an unhealthy gut and unpleasant critters that you might have in your gut. So if you have a parasite like Blastocitis hominis or Giardia, which are pretty common ones. If you have a bacteria overgrowth like H. pylori, which is also very common, or if you have a fungal overgrowth like Candida albicans, then that can definitely affect your sleep. And the reason is all these creatures are nocturnal. So they are feeding and moving around at night. And as they are doing that, that's creating inflammation in your body. Now, cortisol is also an anti-inflammatory hormone. So your body's going to release cortisol to deal with that inflammation. And now you know the drill of the rest of it, right? Suppresses melatonin, wakes you up, makes it really hard to go back to sleep. So to find out if you have these unwanted parasites, bacteria, or fungus in your gut, I recommend getting a stool test done. And that is something that I can help you with. That's something that I do with my clients on my Boss Sleep Solution package. And because it is such an important part. In fact, I just found out that I have a parasite when I got to do my lab test recently. So I'm working on correcting that. And, how powerful is it to know the reason, this underlying reason that's so hard to figure out of why you aren't sleeping. So you do need to take a really fun stool test and send it away to a lab to get tested. And it will give you all kinds of other information as well, but definitely pretty much what is living in your gut, whether good or bad. And then you can take certain supplements and even pharmaceuticals to fix that so that you can sleep better. So I hope that this article helps explain why you're waking up in the middle of the night. It's not just because we're biologically meant to, or because you're on some spiritual path and you're too perfectionist or whatever it is. So I hope that this actually gives you hope that if you figure out these underlying issues, that you can start sleeping so much better. So remember to manage your stress, to avoid the blood sugar roller coaster, and to test for unwanted bugs and deal with those if that is what's happening. So thanks for listening, and please get in touch if you have any questions or if you want to talk more about lab testing and how that can help you figure out your sleep.